Hey guys, I hope you're all having a great day today. So I'm starting this new painting, Sunset in the Mountains, as you can see, and I'm really excited about this one. It's going to be a lot of fun. I didn't know that it was going to turn out this good. I'm not quite finished with it yet. Still going to be adding some oil paints and such over the top. So this is acrylic at this point, and this is going to be a two-part series. And so in this video, this first part here, we're going to do the sky. I'm going to show you how to paint the sun, the clouds, and everything kind of above that horizon line. So I guess without any more delay, let's get started. All right, so we have our 16 by 20 inch stretched canvas. And if you want information on how I prep my canvases, I'll have a card that pops up. I made a video recently, in case you missed it, on how I prep my own canvases. So anyways, we have our stretched canvas here, and there's a little bit of a pink spot in the middle. I was doing a demonstration earlier, so ignore that. Just imagine that this is a fresh, clean canvas. And today I'm going to be doing a sunset scene. I haven't done a sunset for quite some time, and if you follow my work, you know that I absolutely love them. So first thing I kind of want to do is I want to figure out where my horizon is going to be. I just at least want to have an idea so I know what's going on. I think I'm going to keep it fairly low. Let's just go for right here. So I just got a number 2 pencil and just drag a line across where you want your horizon to be. Now I'm going to pull out, let's go over to the palette here. I'm going to pull out this is a 3/4 inch. I think I called this a 1 inch before, but I actually think this is a 3/4 inch flat brush. And I'm going to start by just coloring in some of that foreground. So I want to cover the canvas so there's not a lot of white. When I'm doing sunsets, the more and more I do them, I find that it's easier for myself just to get most of the canvas blocked in with the colors. So what I'm going to do is take, and I apologize, I got to tell you what I have here on my palette. These are Liquitex soft body and also some golden fluid acrylics. I like them both. I think the goldens are better for glazing, but I've got kind of just a mixture here. It doesn't really matter, but I like soft body and fluid paints, if you didn't know already. And I have titanium white. This one is phthalo blue, quinacridone red, burnt sienna, cad yellow light, raw umber, and then this is napthol crimson, kind of just a nice reddish, deep reddish color. So anyways, picked up some raw umber and yellow and mix in a little bit of burnt sienna in there as well. Pick up some water. I'm gonna get some more water. I just want to colorize the canvas right now. I know that the color is going to be somewhat similar to this. Might even pick up some white with that. So that's a lot of water. Add some more paint. Reel that back a little bit. So I'm just covering. Okay, just about there. So this is going to give me an idea of what is the It's just going to allow me to see those whites a little bit more true. It's hard to see a white, especially when you're doing a sunset, and know how bright it is when you've got a whole bunch of white in the foreground too. So anyways, and that's fairly thin, just kind of colorizing that for now. We'll come back to it. All right, so we've got our foreground covered up, and I'm going to wash my brush. And I forgot to get a paper towel, so I'm going to do that. Wash that real well, and then kind of squeeze that water off. Good enough. All right, so first thing I want to do is start with the sun itself. So I'm going to pick up some white, a little bit of moisture, and our sun's going to be somewhere right in the middle here. I think I'm going to have it about right there. So I'm going to cover a wide area where that sun's going to be. And I still got a little bit of color in that. That's okay. It's not a huge deal right now. So just get some white down. Pick up some water. Grab some more white. And I'm going to dab the corner of my brush into the yellow and pick up some yellow. I'm going to get pretty close. Okay, I'm going to grab some more yellow. Okay, water's too dirty. So I'm just going to wash this water up real quick. Okay, so we got clean water. I know some of you are probably screaming at me right now. I usually had a kind of like a dual water cup where I had clean water and my dirty water. I've just been a little bit lazy lately. But anyways, let's keep going. So that's a lot brighter. Grab some more yellow. And I'm going to bring that yellow pretty close, but I'm going to leave a little bit of a white spot where this actual sun will be. I'm going to add that yellow all the way over to the edge, keeping it down low in the sky though. That surface is just beautiful. If you haven't watched that video about how I prep my surface, I really encourage you to do so if you're having trouble blending, because it makes a world of difference. Okay. Bring that pretty close. A little bit of a white spot right there where our sun's going to sit. That can be altered some. It's not too critical at this point. But let's grab some more yellow along with some white. And then we're going to grab just a pinch of this crimson. Just a little bit at a time. I don't want to overdo it. There we go. Now you'll see this going on. It's got just a little bit more of an orange tone to it. Very nice. Just dragging it in from the sides, trying to fade it a little bit into the lighter yellows. Just trying to get good coverage. Okay, looking pretty good. Gonna need some more yellow. A little more water, just to keep it moving. And we'll grab some of that crimson. You wouldn't have to use this crimson. That's one of the questions I get a lot. Is it important to use the exact same colors that I have? No, it's not. I just like to try out different reds. I've got 5 or 6 different reds in my studio here. And it's just, I think it's just important to experiment. So I could go back to just about any bright, vibrant red, and it would probably work just as well. But I like to experiment. So don't worry if you don't have the exact name of the paints. I don't think it's too important. Okay, so this has got some more orange to it. And what I want to start to do is think about the shadows within the highlights. So what I mean by that is the highlights are obviously the brighter yellow. So we've got our sun, which is the brightest highlight. But as we move into the oranges, our highlights become this medium yellow and the shadows become more of this orange tone. So I start to think about where those shadows might be right through here, and I want the shadows to be this orange tone, and it'll make sense as I continue with this. So you have to kind of imagine where the clouds roll back towards you, towards us, the viewer. And that's where those orange tones are going to be. And as they roll closer to the sun, we want that to look like it's going back towards the sun. That's where those highlights are going to be, that brighter yellow. So I just try to keep that in mind. It's something that I practice on all the time. Just a good tip, I think. You really have to visualize. A lot of the painting, I think, comes down to just kind of picturing it in your head. And if you can imagine it in your head, you can make it come alive. So it's something I work on a lot. Now, if this doesn't become, this is a little bit rough right there, that's fine. It's hard to do when these paints start to tack up. So you just do your best and just keep moving. You can go back and you can correct this at a later time. So I'm never too worried about it. Okay. Okay, I'm going to make some of those go a little bit closer to the sun. Got an idea in mind for this, so I'm just kind of taking it slow and carefully. What I love about skies, there's really no way to mess this up. You can really run with your imagination. As long as you got the coloring right, the yellows to the oranges, to the reds, to the violets, it's going to look good. Okay, get some more water in the brush. You notice I don't have to wash the brush every time because we want that paint, those colors, to blend as we get further back into the sky. So it's quite all right. Okay, I'm going to add some blue, and some umber. Just a little bit. Just going to dull it back. I'm going to add some more red to this. You notice I'm picking up some of that white. I'm going to add quite a bit more red. Let's just start with that. Take more of that blue umber color. More umber. Just kind of looking at the painting as I'm running through this. And, that's maybe some yellow. Looks fairly good to me. Okay. Now you're going to see the brush strokes if you're using a large brush like this. That's okay. Just basically sketching this out. Just want to know what's going on before I get into detail. Okay. So now I'm trying to look within those quote-unquote shadows, and I'm trying to add a little bit of a darker shadow over the top of it. So I take this very slow. We'll work on this side over here a little more. Not bad. Pick up some more of that color. Okay. Now I'm going to cover a decent portion. So this paint's going on fairly thin at this point. Like I said, I don't want to go overboard. I really just wanted to have a great idea of where I'm going with it before I really get into some thicker paint, which is going to force me to commit more once I start adding that thicker paint. So again, this is just blocking in or underpainting. Okay, let's grab some blue, some burnt sienna, some quinacridone, pick up some of that white, mix it in there, get kind of a violet looking tone. Yeah, I like that. A little bit darker. Kind of going right over the top, some of that color. Still leaving a little bit underneath. And that's going to give us that look that's going back towards the sun. So it's important to work in layers like that when using acrylics. It's getting a little bit overworked right there, you can see it. But this is looking good. Now I want to let's work from reverse here for a minute. I'm going to wash my brush. Water squeezed out. Double wash it again. Okay, that's better. Pick up some white. Look at all that blue. Get it on there. And I think I'm going to take some more white. touch of burnt sienna. Let's touch more burnt sienna, touch more white. Okay, a little more. Stick with that. So it's important to think big when blocking in like this. Don't get caught up in small details just yet. You'll have a chance to correct small things you don't like. Just really get the overall theme. So what I'm going to do here is make the sky look like it's coming towards us, and then it curves up at the last minute, and we're going to be able to see through some of these bigger clouds up top. So it's going to get real blue. And hopefully that contrast between the blues and the yellows will just be wonderful. Okay, pretty good. I'm going to mix some of this blue right in some of this red color I had over here. I'm going to pick up some quinacridone. I'm also going to grab some umber. Along with that umber, I'm going to pick up some white. So we're basically taking this violet color and we're dulling it back. You can see that blue mixing in there, and with the white and umber, it's just going to start to dull it down. More white. More blue. Maybe we could take some more blue than that. Something similar to that. Just got even more blue. That's probably gonna work. Some white and blue just to brighten it up. White and blue, brighten it up. Okay, so we've got kind of some violet, and then we added some more white and blue to it. I'm going to try to fan that in to some of this blue here. Doesn't need to be perfect yet. So I'm kind of using this color to bridge the gap between the blues and this burgundy red violet color. A little more white and blue. And just right in the middle, just create some variation. Take some more white and blue. More blue. Okay. Now at this point, don't need to go much further. Just want to let this dry. It's not only as good to just let it dry, just to give you a good surface to work on that second layer, but it's going to allow you to stand back, kind of think about it. So you're going to want to give this a good 15, at least 15 minutes, I would say. Just making sure all the canvas is covered. grab some more white and blue. Just drag in some lighter blue. This is just going to blend this together a hair more. It's getting overworked right there. Perfect. Okay. Whoop. A little bit darker. Now I'm going to let all this dry. I'm going to think about it. And then come back in a little bit. We'll go to the next step. So after stepping back and kind of looking at this, I think what I would like to do is bring more of this orange tone, maybe a slightly lighter tone, but still have more of this orange sort of fade down further back towards the sun. So I'd like to work on this, bring that down, and then we'll start to work on how we're going to work this up into the sky and just kind of take it as we go. So I'm going to stick with the same brush still, and I'm going to pick up some white. I'm going to grab some yellow and some of the crimson, and I'm going to add some umber, burnt sienna to that, a little more crimson. Okay, I'm going to see what this is like. Okay, not bad. Maybe some more white and yellow to this. Just brighten it up a tad. So I do want some of these brighter highlights, but I don't know, there's something about it. I'd like to see it go lower in the sky. So again, I'm not worried too much about these lines, the brush lines. I'll smooth that out with a round brush later, but I do want it to get everything as close as I can. Okay, and I'm just going to brush over some of these lighter yellows. Okay, now what I want to do, and I'm going to need some more yellow. Pick up some yellow and crimson, a little bit of water. A little bit of white. Right towards the edges, I want the edges to start to fade. Okay, just going to leave it at that. And now what I'm going to do is begin to darken some of these tones as well. So I'm going to pick up some umber, some more of the crimson, okay, so that's a nice darker tone here. Still going on fairly transparent, but building it up slowly, like I said. By working more transparently too, you're essentially glazing, and that's going to create a nice effect to it. I always like glazes when it comes to sunset. Okay, so I'm going to pick up, trying to grab a little bit of blue here. I don't want a lot. And I'll get some more of my raw umber. Add some blue to that. And red. A little more red. This is really starting to take shape now as I'm getting these darker colors on. Everything begins to make more sense. So you can see that's not a lot of paint left on the palette there, but it's enough. Okay, I'm going to grab some quinacridone, mix it in with some of that blue, grab some more water. So quinacridone, blue, and umber. Add some white to that. Add a little bit too much white there. Same colors, just adding it back into this. I go with some white and blue. Okay, so that dulled it back a bit. I think that's slightly better. Okay. Okay, so now you can see the pattern down here has a lot more variation as we go up and down. So we go from highlight to shadow, highlight, shadow, highlight, shadow, and then we get up closer up into the blues, and I want to start dragging those out more. So they're going to be big swaths of shadows versus just these little lines, these sharper lines. We want to make things get smaller as we get closer to the sun, and that's going to draw the eye back and make it just appear like that sun's a lot further back. And that's going to give us the depth that we're looking for. So again, a little bit rough right now as we're laying it on, but establishing those colors is really the most challenging part. So once those colors are established, then we can just go back and match those colors and blend it out. So I'd rather have a little bit of a rough start to begin with and then blend it out later, as opposed to trying to make things smooth and end up maybe not getting the right color on. So just still not quite worried about the specifics of the blends. I just want those colors to be in their appropriate spots. And if I wanted to blend those out a little bit, I could dip my finger in some water. And blend those out a little bit, and that just helps a little. Okay, so we don't have a lot of paint right now on the brush. Just enough to colorize a few things. I'm just looking for any more areas that I might want this tone. It's looking pretty good. Okay, let's work a little bit on the blues. Give my brush a good wash. Okay, let's pick up some of that color, but I'm going to add some white and some blue. And then I'm going to add some quinacridone, which is going to give it more of a violet look. Make sure that's mixed up. A little more of a violet. Okay. Grab some white. Quinacridone. Brighten that up. Just a hair. Okay, so we got a little bit of violet now. I'm gonna go right over some of the blue. Kind of use this violet to now bridge the gap between that blue and the color we just laid down. Just want to break it up a little bit. That's a lot of blue right there. It's going to be better if it is broken up slightly. You know, as I'm laying this color on, I'm thinking to myself how I just naturally know to go a little bit lighter with the mixture of color. Okay, so I have to apologize real quick here. I had an interruption and I had to take a step away. So I left off with this violet color in the blue, and this is actually dried for me now. So this would be a good time to take a step back and let your painting dry. I'm gonna go ahead and move to the next step. This is looking pretty good. So let's just imagine that I finished with this violet color, let your painting dry, and now we'll move on to the next step. So here we go. Let's go back over to the palette, and I've got some fresh colors, I've got clean water, and I'm gonna switch to, you guessed it, some of these round blender brushes are some of my favorites. And these are the large ones, and then here's a small one. And as I always say, Princeton makes the same kind. So anything with a nice round edge. You could also use something like this mop brush that's got a nice round shape to it. Filbert brushes. So, and yeah, I may even use a couple of these filbert brushes. Here's a smaller one right here. So there's only two sizes in the round brush, the large size and the small size. And I'm going to stick with these for right now. And what I'm going to do, I'll probably start with one of the smaller ones and maybe use the larger ones. Actually, let's start with a filbert. So this is a 1/4 inch filbert. And I'm going to lay the color down with the filbert and then use these two round ones to blend it out. So let's take our filbert, get it in water, and I'm going to start with, well, first things first, I'm going to start with some white. Just going to take some bright white, and we'll go back over, and I'm just going to brighten up this spot. Just go ahead and get this on there. Pretty thick. Okay, so that's nice and bright. Now the next thing that I think I want to do is start to just go from the yellows to the oranges and work my way back and kind of smooth out everything. So I'm going to take some yellow. My paint should be all dry here on the palette, so I can just kind of keep going over the top. So I mixed in some white. That yellow is pretty bright. I may not need, so this is a good example, you don't always need, if you don't have a nice round brush like I have, I'm using just this filbert brush and that's working pretty fantastic right now. You don't always need, I always say it's not the brush, it's the painter. I've always thought about, and I may still do this, I've thought about doing an entire painting with just my hands. So I'd finger paint a whole landscape just to make a point that you don't need the perfect brush to get what you want. You can manipulate just about anything that you have at your disposal and it's going to work as long as you have the right technique. Okay, so I'm going around the outside of where I laid this white down, and I'm just getting this yellow on there, so that's nice and bright now. Get some more water. I'm going to grab some crimson. So it's going to be nice and orange now. And let's go ahead and just mix up the rest of this color here. Okay. This filbert brush, the more and more I use this filbert brush, I might just stick with it. So I'm looking for those highlights that I left, and I'm just going to start to smooth that out. So I'm adding this orange color. Now, as I add this orange color over the darker area, you'll notice sometimes it turns kind of a greenish tone. That's because it's more yellow than red. When we add yellow over a dark tone, it starts to appear green. It's like mixing yellow with black. It's kind of a greenish tone. So when you get into these darker areas, what you have to do is take some red and add it to the mixture. And that's going to blend into those darker colors a lot better for you. So you got to recognize that right away. Get some of that yellow off. Add the red and blend it in. So sometimes the problem that you face with a sunset and a sky like this is you have things too yellow. Make sure you start to move to those deep reds as soon as you get away from that lighter area. So I'm just going around to all these areas, just sort of blending that in. And it really starts to soften things up quickly. Back to those lighter areas, grab a little more yellow. So you have to mix on the fly. You go back and forth like this. You got to add yellow, add red, add yellow again, add some white. So I would say practice on mixing colors on the fly like that. It's really going to help you. Okay, so I added some blue to this. I actually think I want to get some more, didn't add any more burnt sienna or umber when I grabbed some new colors, and I kind of ran out of yellow there too, so I'm gonna go ahead and just get all those colors back on my palette. Grab some burnt sienna, some crimson, okay. So that's kind of the color that I already have on here. I'm going to start to go over the top. So I'm basically just matching, when you start really thinking about this, basically just matching the colors that I already have on the canvas. I'm just going over the top, and that's really helping me blend those out. Add a little umber and blue. I think the more you practice on mixing colors as you go like this, I get a lot of questions about how do I get the right colors, how do I get the right tints. I think I just answered a question about that yesterday. You really improve that skill set of mixing colors quickly when you're just mixing as you go, just kind of mixing on the fly here. It just forces you to really think about the colors you have on the canvas a lot harder. I think that challenge is what helps you grow. So this is a long process here. It's going to take a while. I want the sky to be very nice. I just don't want to rush anything. I'm going to keep this going as long as I can. But at some point, I'll have to speed this up because it will just be, it'll become long, too long for me to edit, and it just becomes very repetitive. But I'll keep working at it, and I know I get a lot of you reaching out to me that you don't want any sped up portions. Please understand that I do my best, and that is very difficult to edit a 3, 4, 5 hour video and upload it. So I'm going to keep going as long as I can, but just know that when I do speed it up, it's no different than what I'm doing, and I'll try to slow down the sped up portions a little bit more than I have been, but just know that when anything is sped up, there's nothing different, and I only speed up portions that are repetitive, so you're not going to miss any explanations or any details. And I truly believe that if you guys can get your painting to the point where I'm ready to speed it up, that you can finish it as well, because the most difficult part will be getting to the part where I'm ready to speed it up, because that's the portion that you've got to change up tactics along the way and improvise, and then when I get to the sped up portion, it's when I'm ready to just repeat that process and just kind of just repeat the motion and go through the motions. It's very repetitive, and so that's the easy part. It's just repeating what you do over and over to get it smoother. And I usually only speed up the portions that I'm working on when I'm working on just smoothing out the tones that I've already laid down. So if you can get the tones right, you can get it to that point, I've got confidence that you can get it to the finished result. And if you still struggle a little bit, You guys can always ask me questions. Try to get back to as many people as I possibly can. Okay, so what I just did was I grabbed some quinacridone, some raw umber, some burnt sienna. And so this is a darker pink. So I'm not done with any of this portion down here, but I'm not going to focus on that. I'm going to do some, I'm going to get it to a certain point, and then I'm going to go back to the part that I know needs a lot of work. So I build it up simultaneously. It just helps me get a better feel for where I'm at with this portion once I see this part completed. So if I work all on this area here, it becomes hard for me to visualize, is this done or not yet, without having any of the rest of this up to speed and close to being done as well. So I like to bounce around, go back and forth from the darks and the highlights. Just helps me piece it together in my mind. So I got this kind of a dirty pink. So I got some white, some quinacridone, some umber, get some more umber in there. So I'm just looking for areas of the canvas that I can see that canvas texture. It's a little bit rough. Okay, now I'm going to take this larger round brush, dab some water on it. I can start to use it to smooth this application out. So I'm going to grab some paint and I'm going to look for a place to apply it. A little bit right there. And I'm going to take my round brush, just kind of fan it out. Similar to, say, working with oils, it just dries a lot quicker. You got to keep on top of it. I'll probably add oils. I really am loving the oils in my painting process lately. But I'm going to try to get this sky as close as I can with just the acrylics. See how far I can take it. Okay, so let's grab some more yellow and white. A little bit of red. One more yellow. This is going to start to bring me back into those highlights. So now I'm kind of moving away from those darker tones, starting to blend back down. I really think the more paint I add, the easier the blending becomes. It's just once you have that base of paint that's dried on the canvas, it becomes very easy to work on top of. I think that goes for oils as well. So I'm going to add some, a little bit dark, grab my blender brush, get some water, and just blend it out. So that becomes kind of a glaze. It just helps me soften things. It's kind of the key to getting a smooth blend with acrylics. Working quick, having another brush to help you blend it out, it becomes kind of a glaze. Just grab a little more of that pink, drag it in. Put it right on top of that highlight over here and just kind of blend it out. See how easy that is? We're starting to darken that down. It becomes very smooth. Boy, it's really looking beautiful. I'm going to wash my brushes. It's just good to wash frequently. Just keep that paint from drying too hard on there. Let's take some more yellow with a little bit of red, kind of mix an orange along with some white. Let's just work on some of these highlights. So again, you want to be careful with this yellow. So it can turn green. So what you want to do is you can grab some red and then you can kind of blend that up. Even a little more red. Can add some white to this red, a little bit of water. So if you start to add some highlights over the top like I'm doing right now, and it becomes sort of diluted looking, unsaturated, it's kind of like a white tone going over the top of a dark. Doesn't look super great. That's all right. We can glaze color over the top to colorize it. The thing you want to focus on is the blend. As long as that blend is smooth, we can add color. Don't worry about it. So that's a little bit too light of a color. It's probably best to actually try to match the color that you're looking for. So I'm going to add some, it's a lot of blue. I'm going to add some burnt sienna. And some red to that, a little bit of white, some quinacridone. Okay, so that's probably closer to the color. It's kind of a darker purpley color. Yeah, there you go. You do run the risk when you're going over a dark color like that of having the color be too dark. It's a lot easier to blend things out smoothly when you're close to the color you want. Let's add some more quinacridone in blue, deeper violet. Just kind of helps blend that into the darker areas. That's looking really good. I'm gonna add this darker color. Take a little water, dab my round brush, and then just kind of blend it out. Glaze that color over the top. Some burnt sienna and some umber along with some white and some red and yellow, kind of some orange. More yellow and white. Yeah, just a little bit of a darker color. Now watch, I apply it on. I don't have a lot of time. Grab some water on my brush and then glaze that around. Push that around, blend it out, fan it out. It's not going to look perfect on the first go. It's about working at it over and over and over. But okay, getting to a point where I've been working a lot of the areas, about ready to let it dry a little bit. It's looking good. I do want to work on the highlights in the center. I'm really not happy with that yet. Take some lighter color. Some white and yellow. So it's not as vibrant. But I do need to start to brighten up the spots that I want to be a little brighter. Just want those highlights to pop in the center a bit more. But for right now, it's a decent start. I'm going to let things dry again, and allows me to think about it some more. And then we will come back and we'll start to finalize a few more things. Well, now as I look at this a little bit more, and after I stood back for a while, I think what I want to start to do is lighten up some of the areas that are closer to the sun itself. So I just want to wash on maybe some lighter oranges through this area and this area. And this violet color up top too, I've been thinking about. I really like that. I think I want to incorporate some more of that maybe in the transition between the blue and this darker tone. Just some violets up in here, and just work on just continuing to repeat this same process. So I got my filbert brush still, and mix some more orange. I think I'm going to add some yellow and some white to that, and you just tad more white and yellow. Yeah, so some of those areas, just getting some more water in there. Some of these areas right here that I'm working on are just a little bit too dark, and I think it'll enhance the glow of the sun by just beginning to lighten those up. So again, when you're adding these lighter colors over the darks, it does get a bit difficult to match that color to get that transition right, but like I said, you can glaze it down later. I could probably start using my round brushes. Mix up a little more of that color. Some water. So you can see that just starts to lighten up that tone a bit. It's a subtle change, but with time it's going to look much better. Now you have to remember, when you're using acrylics like this, you're trying to create all these smooth blends, it is very difficult to achieve the exact effect that you're after because they do dry so fast. So again, I use this as a shortcut to get to where I want to be, but it's really hard to get exactly where I want to be without switching to oils, just because they do stay open for so long and allow you to really work it and refine it down to what you're after. But this allows you to get pretty dang close, and it's looking fairly good at this point. So of course you don't have to use oils if you're following along, but just know that some of the effects that I get are really hard to achieve without it. Some of the questions I get are, why don't I use more mediums with my acrylic paints? And well, it's still just more difficult than doing it this way and then switching to oils. It just really comes down to, well, how can I save time? And if I can do that, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to add a little more water to that color. Just allow me to continue to kind of brighten up some of these spots. It's looking really well though. Looking good. Coming along really well is what I meant. Add some more red. Kind of an orange tone. And some more white. I do have some cat orange. I'm running out. That was enough there. Sometimes by choosing a color pre-mixed like this, it's going to be a lot more vibrant when you're applying it. Of course, cadmium is really good at that. So this has kind of helped me with some of these orange highlights that I'm looking to achieve. So again, we want to have a little more detail down low, a little bit less up top. Looking lovely though. So I've still got some paint on here. Just kind of rolling it on. Okay, so just thinking about this, I think I'm going to add some water. I'm going to add some red to that color. Okay. I'm going to add some more water, and I'm going to get both some burnt sienna and some umber, along with some red, That was a bad idea. Came right, picked that paint right off of my palette, the blue underneath. Okay, try this again. Some more burnt sienna. Okay, a little bit too dark. Add some white to that. Use my larger brush just to kind of blend out some areas. That larger blender brush, kind of a correction brush. If you make a mistake, you can use that larger brush to sort of just blend it away so you don't notice it as much. Get my finger in some water. So I'm just working on, a lot of this is just matching the color again. I'm just trying to smooth everything out. I'm going to grab some orange and white. Just brighten this up, make it a little more orange. You see with that hard edge we got right here, so it's things like that I look for. I'm going to try to just soften up the front side, the leading edge of that, lighten it up a bit. See how that can start to make a difference? A little more orange and white. Okay, it's looking very nice. I'm going to wash my brush. Both of the brushes. And I'm going to think about that color up top. I'm going to pick up some blue. And my quinacridone is dried now. Not always the best with that. Get sidetracked in between letting things dry. So we've got some purple, and I'll add some umber and some white to that. We just test this out. Okay, we're going to need more white and more blue. We want to lighten that up, give it a little bit more of a blue tone. And if I remember right, that tone was right here. So I can kind of use this as a guide and try to match that. That looks about right. Let's add a little more white. is going to dry darker. Not too much though, but it does a little bit. Let's add some more blue. I'm just not feeling it quite yet. Okay. So I'm looking for, and it might be a little bit tough for you to see, but I'm looking for areas that are a little bit rough. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to dab my brush in water and get a lot of that paint off of there. Add a little more blue and white. Looking for areas where you can kind of see the canvas texture. I'm trying to just softly go over the top of that to smooth it out. And as the more paint starts to lift off the brush, I think the better it's going to get. Because you don't want to apply a lot at a time. Just a little bit allows you to work at it longer, which creates a softer blend. Put a lot of paint on at one time and you can run into some issues. So it goes on very subtle. Blend some of that out. Get a little more water on my brush. Try to keep that paint flowing. Looking pretty good. I'm actually going to stand up and I'm going to walk back. So I'm kind of far away from the canvas right now. I'm just kind of looking at it. It's looking pretty good. I think I can even go further with this purple color. Let's try to grab some more of that. Some white, a little bit of umber. Okay, that's pretty light. Just grab some more. Start adding it. A little more quinacridone. And probably just add a little more umber to that. There we go. We start to get it now. Pretty close. A little more white and blue. Okay, now I'll show you a trick. Wash the brush. Dab it off. So you pick up less paint on the brush. That just makes it easier to blend. So what I'm starting to do is I'm starting to encroach on that blue that I initially laid down. I want that to be limited. I just want you to be able to see peaks of it. Get too much, it's just not super natural. A little more water. Okay, that's looking better. Now, what I'm going to do is continue working on repeating this process. So I'm going to go back over and I'm going to repeat this last step that I just did. Same thing, and I'm going to try to match these colors, smooth them out just a bit more, and just work on maybe brightening up the highlights just a tad, but not too much. Grab a round brush here. Here my white, yellow, a little bit of orange. So it's a little bit brighter, and I'm just going to try to continue to brighten some of these highlights. Just tapping it on. But that is pretty much it. Nothing else to it. I could be just about happy with this right now, but I just want to set myself up just a tad more. And so I'm probably just going to spend some extra time just blending things out. We'll just see where it takes me, but pretty close. I'll get some more white and some yellow. See that bright color going on? There's just some tweaking I could do. Nothing special. Just a little tweaking. And then once I'm done, slow it down and talk about where we'll go from here. So I actually didn't do that much more work to this painting. I did work on what I talked about, just kind of repeating the process, and then I started to focus more on the light source itself, the sun itself. But then after just taking a step back, and I think I kind of need that time for myself to really think about it off camera, just kind of so that I know where to take it from here. And after doing that, I just kind of decided that it's good right now. There's no need in going overboard. There's things that can definitely be smoothed out. And one of the reasons why I wanted to take a step back and pause rather than going further and further and further ahead with this is that I haven't sprayed this yet with a gloss coat, which is what I usually spray it with. And so that gloss coat that will go over the top of the acrylics will really unify everything, and some of the colors will become much more saturated and vibrant, and especially in the transition area between those reds and the blues. If you kind of look right now, it seems a little bit faded, and it's actually hard to see the true color when you have kind of a matte finish, which is what it is right now. So once I get that gloss coat, I'll have a lot better of an idea of where I need to go with this. And so I've decided to take a pause, move on to the foreground, which is what the next video will be. I'll do a part 2, we'll finish the foreground and complete the rest of the painting with oils. I'll try to include that all in a part 2. We'll see how long it takes. But I am gonna go on and go ahead with the foreground, so stay tuned for that. And then of course I will spray it, see what it looks like, and then dabble a little bit with oil. So thanks again so much for watching, and if you guys would like to support my channel, as always, please check out my free print giveaway as well as my eBay auctions and website. Remember that I auction off all of the paintings I do here on my videos through my eBay, and all of those links can be found in the description below. Thank you, and we'll see you next time.